very sensitive matter in Nigeria. It's been a matter of discussion. We've been talking about it over and over again. And now we'll shed more light on that. Just because the chairman of the Senate Committee on Constitution Review, Southeast Zone, Senator Peter Onyekachukwu, just made a proposal saying that local government should be removed as third tier of governments in Nigeria, and states should be granted the authority to create their own councils and manage them. The issue of local government has been very controversial in Nigeria. We've been having this conversation, controversies in different states. Even in Osun State, for instance, there's been controversies concerning the control of the local government, where two different parties are actually contending to be the rightful occupants of the offices. And that's simply because of the funds that these local governments get. And also we've had cases of complaints and agitations about imbalance in number of local governments in each state. In total, in Nigeria, we have about 774 local governments, but not evenly spread across the states of the country. For instance, in Kano State has about 40 local government areas, and we have a state like Bayelsa having only 8 local government areas. So there's always been this agitation about imbalance. So there's this suggestion. It's an idea. This is not a bill yet. It is just an idea to say, what if we remove the local government as the third tier of government in Nigeria, and have states, being autonomous, being able to create their own councils and manage them. That way they can go ahead and create as many local councils as they want, because they will be the ones to manage the local councils. Some people have argued that, fighting for autonomy, the local government has not really worked. It doesn't work because most of them are still under the control of the state government. For instance, the state houses of assemblies, which should be autonomous, are not. Most of them are under the control of the executive, under the control of the governor. So the argument has been the same way state houses of assembly rather are not autonomous, that it will also affect the local government. So why not just scrap local government as third tier of government and just let the states be able to create their own councils and manage them? On this critical issue, we have two eminent personalities joining us on the show this morning. Right here with us in the studios, we have architect Goke Omigbodun, a public affairs analyst, and of course, SDP Candidate in Osun State for 2022. Good morning, architect Omigbodun.
Thank you, Daniel. My name is Omigbodun.
Omigbodun, yeah. He's trying to get Omigbodun, architect Omigbodun. Thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Yes.
And of course, also joining us on this matter, we have Barrister Theophilous Tokode, a legal practitioner.
All right, good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you on this show this morning.
Absolutely. I hope I got it, Tokode.
Tokode.
That's why I was laughing, because I know his
because
name.
It can be pronounced another way.
No.
All right.
We are peculiar to Mudakeke area in Osun State.
All right. So it's a pleasure having you. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the program this morning.
It's nice to be here, as ever.
Okay. I'd like to start with you, architect Omigbodun.
Yeah.
All right. The issue of local government. We've had this conversation here on the program before when we were talking about it, discussing about states' agitations, different states saying the imbalance in the number of local governments, and why you also gave your position, why you felt it's unfair, that it's not helping governance. I want us to take a holistic look at this. We'll be looking at the economic importance, why we have the local governments in the first place, are they really viable? And again, should states have the autonomy, to create their own local council and manage them? So what's your general view on this before we dive deeper into different aspects of the issue?
Well, thank you very much. I have always been of the opinion that states, in accordance with the Constitution, should handle their respective local governments. The Constitution is very clear on this thing. In fact, let me come from the position of saying that the local governments had never been a third tier of government. In any federation that I know anywhere in the world, and including Nigeria, there are usually two federating units: the federal government and the other units. And those other units in Nigeria are the states. The local governments are supposed to be administrative units within the states. It is in Nigeria, because we talk of it and debate it and go along that direction, people begin to think, oh, really, it's a third tier of government. It's not. The local governments are supposed to be created, managed in every ramification by the states. The Constitution is clear when it's time. I'll bring all this out from the different sections of the Constitution. But of recent, we had that monumental aberration of the Supreme Court coming out with this local government autonomy pronouncement or judgment, which perhaps Theophilous may not be able to discuss because he's a lawyer, but I, not being a lawyer, will tell you that that thing is unconstitutional. He will want to be careful. He doesn't want to be misquoted in any way. But I can tell you authoritatively, nobody can disturb me in my practice of my architecture. That thing is unconstitutional. There is no provision in the Constitution that says that local governments should bypass the states. Section 162 of the Constitution is very clear concerning that when it comes to funding. And even when it comes to legislations about the local governments, the states' houses of assembly are supposed to make most of the legislations. So what we should do is to better understand the spirit and investigate more diligently the letter of the Constitution and so abide. One thing is clear, that for me, I am, I don't want to call myself an apostle because that will sound like I am praising myself. I am a student of that school of thought that Nigeria should be restructured such that we even have the other tier of government being regions, so that each region, like we had in the I always refer to three constitutions. The 1954 Oliver Littleton Constitution, because that was the first time that when of a truth, the regions were created with powers of their own. The 1960 Independence Constitution was just a fine-tuning of the Oliver Littleton Constitution of 1954. And then the Republican Constitution gave more teeth, especially by the fact that we had now become a republic, doing away with the Privy Council. The lawyers will discuss all that, and having our own Supreme Court and doing everything on our own. And in all of this, the regions were very prominent. The regions were enabled to even have their own respective constitutions. In Western Nigeria, we had the constitution of the Western region of Nigeria. We had our own agent general, equivalent of an ambassador or a high commissioner in London. In fact, the Nigerian High Commission in London today was indeed the office of the agent general of Western region of Nigeria. We, as Western region, had our own envoy to Saudi Arabia, and we started taking care of our own, our own pilgrims whenever they went there. Now, returning to the issue of the local governments, then the Western region was empowered to determine how many district or municipal councils it wanted to have. But all of a sudden, you are now saying that the first schedule of the Constitution should contain 774 local governments. And of course, you and I know that the bandits have taken over like 4 or 5 of them, you know.
Or
and
even
then, sorry?
Or even more.
Well, if Emeka says so. So, which should not be. Why should it be that to create a local government in Osun State, the parliamentarian from Ebonyi and from Gombe must now determine how local governments are created in Osun State, and vice versa, the parliamentarian from Osun State determining how many local governments can be created from Niger or from Cross River. It is an aberration. So let us have a true federation where there are only two federating units in levels. What I mean is the federal government one level and then the regions another level, and those regions can now on their own create as many local governments as they want, or choose not to even have local governments as they like. Right now, we are discussing of Kano and Bayelsa. How about Ondo and Osun? I have a very good friend who is always talking about it. Okay? Whenever we are together anywhere, Shola Bisheni, the Secretary General of Afenifere, will look at me and say, your state has 30 local governments. How many people do you have there? What is your land area? While my state, Ondo, his own state, has only 18 local governments. And I cannot talk, as it's the creation of the military powers that created those local governments then. So these are issues.
Just to be clear,
yes,
to get it properly.
Yes.
Are you against the creation of local governments in the first place? Should they be scrapped totally?
No, that's
there
not
should be
what
a
I'm saying.
restructuring such that, you've always had a problem with how allocation goes.
Yes,
coming
that's
from the
true.
federal down to state.
You're
and you've always
correct.
advocated that it should go from state to the federal. So is your problem now?
Yeah, from the local to the states, from the state to the federal. That's what I'm saying.
So
it should come
if
from.
there is a restructuring, then there should be a local government.
Yes, if there's a restructuring, regions should be free to create local government if they so desire. And if they desire that, no, in our own region we want to be unitary, so do it. Let each region have its own constitution to determine how they want administration to get to the grassroots.
Barrister, let me throw this question to you. Let's say local governments are scrapped. What happens to the constitutional roles of local governments? Talking about their responsibilities, talking about their historical contributions to grassroots development.
Thank you very much. I think before we go ahead, we need to understand that there was a system in place before we got to where we are as of today.
Okay.
And in the history of, or so much as I know about Nigerian politics, this is the first time the governors will be agitated. That why are you taking the powers of local government from us? And when you see an elderly man in the market who is shouting that they've closed down all the stores or people are no longer coming to buy something in my store, you should know that there's something he has to benefit. The system before is that just like when we were young, a visitor comes who is the federal government to give us money. Then our mother will say, let me keep it for you. When you need it, I'll give it back to you. Then the local government have been subject to the discretionary powers of the state government. When you go into some states, you see how bad it is that local government chairmen are now parading the house of Mr. Governor, dancing to his tune just because they want a share of what is ordinarily allocated to them. So for me as a person, I think I stand on the point that allocation should be paid directly. But I also do not support the scrapping of local governments. And this is the reason. When you take a look at the mechanism behind our constitution, I didn't write it. I was not in existence when the constitution was written. The people that existed as I then wrote it. And when you take a look at our constitution, you understand that we have three kind of lists: concurrent, exclusive, and reserve. Concurrent is what the states and the federal can do together. Exclusive is things that are strictly pertaining to federal government, and residual is what comes down to the local government. So if we are really concerned about administration, the benefit of administration, the system of local government must not be altered. Because most governors we have in Nigeria as of today, they don't even know the local government areas and their location till when they come to contest for election. Then after contesting, a guy just come with the Nigerian politics of today, millions of naira, I'm willing to contest. They'll tell him, go to A, B, C, D. Those are the local governments we have. Except the local government that is close to the seat of power, which is the state capital. except local government that is different from where the governor has come from, except the local government that are in alliance with the dictates of the government. Those are the people that enjoy. So if, for Osun, for instance, we have 30 local governments, if in Osun, we now allow 30 local governments, that's 30 seats of the locals. I call them the locals because that's where they sit. If we now allow 30 seats of the locals to be subjected to the discretion of someone who sits at Abiri, how does the benefit get to the people? So when we take a look at it, we should understand that the drafters of the Constitution, I think they did a good job foreseeing things that could have happened. And when we go to the Supreme Court judgments, which gave the autonomy, the Supreme Court judgment is not saying don't go ahead to do every other innovation you can. But as of today, let the funds that belongs to A go directly to A. Let the funds that belongs to B go direct. So if there is no personal interest, why state government say, oh, let me owe this money for you?
All right, Barrister Theophilous, let me take you up on that quickly. Now, this matter we're discussing this morning is a proposal, a suggestion to say local government should be scrapped as a third tier. Not saying they should no longer exist, but they should be scrapped as third tier. Remove a third tier of government. That states should have the autonomy to create as many councils they want and administer them. And some people, just like you alluded to now, we argue that for the sake of grassroots government. Now, let me just give you a point relating to that. If you talk about grassroots government, how close are these local government chairmen really? How close are they to their people? If you want to argue in that line, here in Osun State, right here on this program, on a show, on a live show, I asked a local government chairman questions about his local government. He had no idea. He didn't know how many healthcare centers, how many primary healthcare centers in his local government. I was forced to tell him to get closer to the people right here on the show. So if you are arguing that for the sake of the people, grassroots policy for the locals, are they really functioning that way? Are the local governments really catering to the needs of the people? That's one big question.
I think for that, when we look at the structure of local government in every state, there is a local commissioner for local government affairs. At least in Osun State, I know we have one, a Ministry of Local Government Affairs, so to say. When we take a look at, even not in Osun in particular now, whosoever heads the local government ministry in every state, who should ordinarily be like the head of the local government administration, including the chairman of ALGON, which is the local government association in their respective states, they don't also know this fact. And this brings us to a fundamental problem that we elect people that were just approved by Mr. Governor of whosoever states to go and manage local governments. The way, if I were to profile a solution, I would have reasoned in the line that all elections, local, states, federal, let's have them on the same day. So when Mr. Governor is busy chasing his own ambition, he will tell local governments, go and sort with your people. At that point, it will be a test of popularity, a test of credibility, and a test of who knows the grassroots. The era of saying any politician is connected with grassroots in Nigeria is long gone. Because I am very sure there are some governors today, they don't even know some towns in their states. When you tell them I'm from so place, they will ask you, which states? So that's the unfortunate situation. But I do not think I would agree to the scrapping of local government as a third tier of government, because it has been in existence and we cannot undermine at this stage the effects or benefits it has given to the people. Though it might not be yielding the expected results, I'm not disputing that, but it's still better than saying, okay, let's scrap it, then everything goes back to the state decides. So the political show-off we've been having in Osun as of today, a government comes, scrap away all the previous policies of the previous government, another comes, says, no, these are policies, we are scrapping away our predecessor. That means if we were to go with that line, during the last 8 administrations or 3 administrations in Osun, we could have had different types of local governments. If I, as a Mudaike man, I come into office, I say, I want to give my Mudaike people local governments. We'll be bearing the tag of area office since almost 60 or 70, since 1960. And up till now, we are still girls an area office. There are other places where you go to OC and some other very unique towns in Osun, they don't have a seat of local government. So now a governor from that place might imagine and say, okay, go and create 50 local governments. And the next governor comes and still call, because he has the whims and caprices of the house, and says, Mr. Speaker, cancel that 50 local government, return it back to 11. Another governor will come and say, no, I've been dreaming to have 35 local governments. So it brings a disorder into the system. The mandatory process of saying, before we approve a local government in Osun, let every legislator in Nigeria consent or disagrees on this. It is for a check and balance purpose. If not, any governor would wake up in his room.
So you don't see it as a bottleneck?
I don't. I don't. We must not allow freedom to the point where there's no check and balances. Because if every governor knows that all I need to do to set up a local government is convert some people in my room, speak with them whether they like it or not, go and do this. If we look at the way budgets are being passed in House of Assemblies, it will call for a concern. I've never seen the passing of budgets where any of the honorable members has raised a question. So is that to say the whole process or every document that was presented as budgetary documents is correct? You see the governors coming in, everybody is excited, wearing their white agbada or whatsoever, applauding the governor, even when they not critically checked. In Osun, one of the last budget that was passed, there are some figures I checked, I said, but who is going to speak at the House of Assembly? You speak your allocation to your constituency or whatsoever. Not Osun in particular now, we are speaking about general. So the powers that the governors have wielded is so much that if we allow them to have access to more power, it will cause a breakdown of system and order. So I would still say it's best it remains as it is. We can look at other ways of improving, in which the Supreme Court has helped us to also improve that. Money that belongs to local government, let it go to local government. Money that belongs to states. And I should also say this, the system we have in Nigeria is a system where even when the money, it's not like the money was not going to local government before. Let me put it on record. The funds will go to local government, and there is a memo. Every local government chairman should return X amount. So if federal government is giving you 1,000 naira, you have to return 795,000 naira. Now the governor will now think in his magnanimity, how much can I give you after you giving me 995? So these are the problems. If the state executive councils or the state leadership of every state is genuinely committed to the development of the people, that would not be a problem. But we've had instances where governors wake up and think they are the hallmark of leadership in their state. They are the hallmark of decisions, and they just take decisions like that. So to conclude, I would say I think the system we have today has put a lot of checks and balances, even though there's still room for improvement.
All right, architect, this is for you. So, since you advocate for the scrapping,
No.
okay,
What I said is that the regions should be allowed to decide whether they want to create whatever number of local governments.
Yeah, but for now, architects, we do not have regions, so let's just stick to states for now. So,
And even if it is the states, then the states should be allowed to do. I'll read what is in the
That's the same
Constitution.
proposal.
I wanted to
So
ask you.
it's not about scrapping.
All
They were
right.
never a third tier.
Okay,
The local governments were never a third tier. There is nowhere
But
in
we
the
recognize
world.
You
them
mean
as
right
that in
from
Nigeria.
inception?
That is what you call them. It's an aberration. It is wrong. There is nowhere in the world. Tell me one federation that has more than 2 levels of federating units. You usually have the federal government and the states.
But in practice,
The federal government and the provinces, or the federal government and the regions.
they have
But
councils.
yes, those municipalities are creations of the states. In the United States of America, it was the choice of California to have a Los Angeles
but you do know that the states
municipality.
are somewhat autonomous of the federal government. They have their own state laws.
That is exactly what I'm saying, that the Federation of Nigeria is not a true federation. That's why you think there's a third tier of government. There had never been. There had been the federal government and the states. The local governments were smuggled into the constitution to give an impression that they are a third tier, but there are other letters of the constitution that indicate that they are not. Permit me to read a few portions to you.
All right.
I'm not going to put any opinion as such. I will just read to you. Section 7, Section 7(6)(b) of the Constitution. The House of Assembly of a state shall make provisions for statutory allocation of public revenue to local government councils within the state. So why are you bypassing the state to now say you want to give a local government autonomy? Listen again. Section 162 of the Constitution, fifth part, 162(5). The amount standing to the credit of local government councils in the Federation shall also be allocated to the states for the benefit of their local government councils on such terms and in such manner as may be prescribed by the National Assembly. Listen more. Each state shall maintain special accounts to be called state joint local government accounts, into which shall be paid all allocations to the local government councils of that state from the federation account and from the government of the state. And section 162, it says, the amount standing, in fact, let me first read 7. Each state shall pay to local governments. It's there clearly in the Constitution. In its area of jurisdiction, such proportion of its local revenue on such terms and in such manner as may be prescribed by the National Assembly. And 8, the amount standing to the credit of local government councils of the state shall be distributed among the local government councils of the state on such terms and in such manner as may be prescribed by the House of Assembly of the state. So there is nothing like that. I mean, that local government pronouncement by the Supreme Court violates the spirit and letters of this Constitution. But because everywhere in the world, the pronouncement of the Supreme Court becomes new law, then we are just taking it. And that's why, and there is usually one thing that needs to be done in such a situation. You need to pass a new law or amend your constitution. And that's why they've been struggling since, to amend the constitution to take care of the aberration of the Supreme Court. And they have not yet succeeded. And they will never succeed. And this constitution will continue to be made a nonsense of until we throw it out completely and have a fresh constitution.
From the letters that you've read out,
yes,
it's behoves on the state government,
yes,
to make or to create to make the local governments, yes, autonomous, not
to
the federal.
Make the local governments work. Well, forget about the issue of autonomy or no autonomy. There is no autonomy that much anywhere at any level for now, because even the president has abused this constitution to also suspend a governor, a validly elected governor. Absolutely. So not only do we have a bad constitution that can be played upon by bad politicians, the bad politicians are actually playing upon it in a very bad way.
All right, architect, before I move to barrister, let us get this straight.
Yes.
So you are saying the local government was never a third tier of government?
Never.
But the point is, let us face reality. Yes. In Nigeria today, in practice, we see local government as third tier of government. That is why Senator Peter Onwebo is saying it should be removed. That's his point. It shouldn't be seen as a third tier of government.
That is his understanding, and he wants that understanding to be made clearer, because he also can see that the Constitution is ambiguous. It is not functioning.
That's the point.
Let me tell you one thing. My brother didn't remember something very well, so I will remind him now that the area office in Modakeke was not created in the 1960s. I was part of the government of Osun State in 2002 of April, when the local LCDA, the area office in Modakeke, was created. But the then governor, Chief Bisi Akande, didn't have enough powers to do anything about it. It had to take the federal government led by Olusegun Obasanjo then to create a peace and reconciliation committee led by Olabode George that eventually made this creation possible, and then kind of handed it over to the governor of Osun State and said, go and implement this.
Sorry to cut in architect. So what was it before then? What was it? What was that office called before then?
No, it was part of Ife East local government, and it was never existent. But there was a way in which, because of those, even within amongst ourselves, ethnic differences, dialectical differences, we take it too far. We have forgotten that the brotherhood of man should transcend the sovereignty of nations. And if people and Modakeke people who are so much intermarried will be fighting amongst themselves, and therefore certain people may not feel that they are being well treated, or were actually not being well treated. And so divisions are to be created.
All right, architects. If I understand you clearly, it's just another way of interpreting what the senator is saying, that the third tier shouldn't be there in the first place.
Yes.
Exactly.
And the states should be allowed to create as many local governments as they want to create. Let Osun State create 1 million local governments, and let Ondo State say, we are satisfied with our 18 local governments. But from whatever you do, that was what even this present president was trying to play with when he was governor of Lagos State. And he came up with the LCDAs.
Local Council Development Areas.
Yes. So the LCDAs in Lagos were springing up about the same time. Very smart man, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, about the same time when it was being put in Osun State. So he said, why not? So I can create my own. And he started creating his own, but because it was not created by the federal government, then his own purse was held. That's what happened.
All right, so if we have
But till date, those LCDAs are fully functional.
Absolutely.
Just like the ones, and you remember that when Rauf Aregbesola, governor, came to Osun State, having been a commissioner in Lagos, having seen the way they danced around this bad constitution and insisted on having things in a more proper way, because that was what Bola Ahmed Tinubu was trying to do there. And when Rauf Aregbesola came to Osun, I was one of his fans in certain respects, because he was going along the lines of making sure that a state actually had enough powers and exercised it. He only went a little bit too far by declaring a state of Osun and then going about with some people carrying flags and all that, you know. But it was a good test also of how much powers the state should be able to exercise. And he also went ahead and created further LCDs that are functioning in Osun till today.
All right, so how would this, if there is no third-tier government, or the states are now creating their own LCDs, how would the allocations work?
The allocations would work out by the pronouncement or the decision of the State House of Assembly in accord, even if we are still using this flawed constitution. That is what this constitution says. I've read that out to you now. I didn't say it from my head. That's why I brought the
State Houses
document.
of Assemblies.
Yes.
That you all agree that may be under the administration, or that may be under the control, rather, of the executive.
It is because we have not yet built strong institutions in Nigeria. Listen, if Nigeria were the place where Donald Trump was the president, this country would have been destroyed. Because Donald Trump has gone there. In fact, Donald Trump in America now is beginning to sue judges, and judges are beginning to sue him because he wants to destroy their entire system there. But their institutions are too strong for him. They last him. But here in Nigeria, we have strong men and not strong institutions. So that's why you say the governors are strong. Is the president not strong? The president is also so strong. So why are you putting so much powers in the hand of one president, and he's an emperor, and nobody is able to check him and challenge him? He's controlling 53% of the resources already. He wants to be peeping into how 20% of the local government should also be, so that he can be controlling 73%. And then he wants to, at his own will, just decide that this governor didn't greet me well at the last function. The thugs go and disturb a few things in the state. State of emergency. I remove you, Governor Emeka Daniel. Is that not power?
All right.
Abuse?
Architect Omigbodun. Let me come to you, Barrister Theophilous. A particular section of the Constitution that Architect Omigbodun read out, one part of it caught my attention, and that's the clause which says that the allocations to the local government should be determined by the National Assembly, as determined by the National Assembly. I would like you to react to that and your view relating to what Architect just said.
You know, before I go into that, I need to say, as for me, anything that has to do with the issue of local government interpretation, as of today, has been settled by the Supreme Court.
Does it make it a law? Like I said, does it make it law? Does a Supreme Court's pronouncement become law?
The Supreme Court can invalidate any provision of the law to make a new one. Not
without a constitution, Barrister, without a constitutional amendment.
Not enactment of law per se. So there is a popular quote by Oliver Wendell Holmes: "The prophecy of what the law will says are nothing more pretentious than what the court says." Whatever the law says is until the court affirms or denies it. We have an issue, we've been on it since last year. The federal government has been collecting taxes on gaming, betting, and the likes. And the case lasted for about 15 years. So Supreme Court said no. The revenue accruing from gaming, gambling, betting belongs to the states. So if we didn't condemn the Supreme Court as at then, we should not also condemn at a point when they have given powers to this autonomy to the local government. So the point I'm making is, for me as a person, every issue that has to do with local government's interpretation has been sorted. Unless if the court wakes up tomorrow and says, oh, that judgment was given in error. So if I would still go ahead to argue, I'll still argue in line of whatever has been, that is the correct position. Till either God decides, oh, we need to change this, then speaks to the mind of the judges and they come back to say, oh, this judgment, because they can do that. They can tell you that the judgment we gave last week, it was in error. Now this is a new government judgment and we are departing from the old authority. But for any student of law in Nigeria as of today, the judgment still exists. And that's what we have as the current position. Then I also need to say, just like Architect has said, we are running the country like a cartel business. And what do I mean? When you take a look at how cartel operates, they have someone everywhere. And when they need to take a decision, they just tell A tells B, B tells C, till it gets to the last person who will get the work done. And that brings us to the fact that what we have in this country is a replica of men that are stronger than the system. Because if we have a system that is stronger than the men, all these things will not be issues for discussion because there's a process. Everyone says 10 million naira is going to Ife East. As it gets to Ife East, the next question is, local government chairman, what have you done with 10 million naira? But today, we've not even had a single local government chairman in Osun, and I don't know for any other state, that has come out to give us an account of what he has spent in the last 3 years. So whether it goes to the government, whether it comes to you, could you give us an account of what you have done with this in the last 3 months? And I bet it will be right under the Freedom of Information Act to request. Nobody's going to give you that. Or it will take about 3 more years before they give you. That would be. So I think one thing I would still want us to understand is to allow governors or the states have powers to create local government. In Osun, we are dealing with a controversy. We don't know who our local government chairmen are. So let's imagine we had created about 1 million local governments. So we have about 2 million persons claiming authority of a single seat of government. So for me, I think we've duplicated offices enough in this country. And that is one of the things that is affecting our revenue.
Right, I'm going to ask you both this question before we're running out of time. Architects, the withholding of Osun State's local government allocation for about 6 months and counting, how constitutional is that? How does it strengthen our local government development and all of the other responsibilities of local government?
Well, if I remember very well, and we have all agreed, I didn't disagree with him, that whatever the pronouncement of the courts are, become the new law. It's just that when you now want to discover that that new law will make those that pronounced it look very bad, then they begin to find other ways around it and try to tinker with the Constitution, which they are finding difficult to do now. Or another thing they can do is that the National Assembly can actually also create a new law to counter whatever the Supreme Court decides. The only thing that will happen is that anything happening before that new law will be according to the pronouncement of the court. But once a new law is also assented to by the president, it becomes new law. And then the Supreme Court will have to be struggling with how to reinterpret that again. So right now, whatever belongs to the local government, according to this constitution, will be the prescription of the National Assembly, but must come into the joint state account. And that is what should still hold for now. And until such a time, have they been able to implement that local government autonomy pronouncement? They have not. Right. So concerning the Osun State own, a judgment had been with the then Governor Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Lagos that the funds didn't have to have been withheld. And so why is that same then governor, now president, still now abusing that same law and still holding on to the allocations of Osun? I've made several calls several times. I said, release allocations of Osun
all right,
Governor Ademola Adeleke. Let him spend it the way he likes.
We are totally,
for the people of Osun.
We are totally out of time. In 30 seconds, please.
Okay. For me, I think this is the first constitutional embarrassment we would be having as lawyers, and seeing that the institution that is meant to support and uphold the judgment of courts has now done everything within its power to frustrate it. I am hopeful the Office of the Attorney General will do the needful, because there's no legality in it. And I keep saying it. I was part of those that brought Governor Adeleke, Ademola Adeleke into power, but I do not respect his administration's policies. But that doesn't mean when the time to speak the truth comes, we do not speak it. It is a constitutional embarrassment. It is shocking to see that we have court orders, we have judgment from courts, and the persons in charge. That's why I said we run this country like a cartel business. Thank you. All
right, thank you so much. It's been an interesting conversation right here this morning. I'm talking about local governments. Architect Omigbodun is of the opinion that they should never have been the third tier of government in the first place. So they shouldn't be there in the first place. Not even, we shouldn't be talking about their removal. It's an aberration, according to him. And we also have, we had with us this morning, Barrister Theophilous, who believes that they should understand that it is necessary for checks and balances. You decide whether local government should remain or should be removed. The choice is yours. This morning, I would like to say thank you so much, Architect Goke Omigbodun, Public Affairs Analyst, former SDP Gubernatorial Candidate 2022. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning.
My pleasure always.
At least I got the pronunciation of your name correctly.
Yes.
Absolutely. And of course to
Indeed,
you.
And one local government should be created for you.
Oh boy, that was a nice one. And of course, Barrister Theophilous Tokode, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Always a pleasure to have you. To you, our distinguished viewers, Ebmeka Daniel is my name. Join us again tomorrow for a fresh edition of Morning Spring on Western Spring Television.
Have a fruitful day, dear viewer. My name is Timmy Tope Ajijola Oluwa Ola. Thanks for